December 14th, 1972 was the date when the last human, Yuzhin Sarnan, took his step off the moon and, along with his companion Harrison Skimmett, launched from the lunar surface towards Earth. It has been 52 years since that day. But after that, no human ever returned to that desolate, cold surface of the moon. What exactly happened with Apollo 17 that National Aeronautics and Space Administration never considered setting foot on the moon, their dream destination, again? Is there some unresolved mystery buried there that still troubles us today? Is there a dark truth hidden beneath the moon's white surface that would force humanity to reconsider everything? Today, we will travel back in time and peer into the depths of the moon, where every step hides a new question and a new fear. But it is very important for you to stay with us on this mysterious journey. Don't even think about leaving this video until the end, because here you are going to learn what the moon might be trying to tell us. Every end has a beginning, and the beginning of landing on the moon with the Apollo program started on July 20, 1969 with Apollo 11, when Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin took that historic step on the surface of the moon. After this success, National Aeronautics and Space Administration carried out 7 missions until 1972. These included Apollo 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, and the last mission, Apollo 17. Among these, Apollo 13 had a very tragic outcome. Due to an explosion in the oxygen tank, the entire mission was put in danger. If you want to know more about this mission, do let us know in the comments below. But today, our focus is on Apollo 17, which began on December 7, 1972 with the roar of the Saturn V rocket from Kennedy Space Center. According to American time, at 5:30 in the evening when the rocket launched, 3 astronauts, Commander Eugene Cernan, Lunar Module Pilot Harrison Schmitt, and Command Module Pilot Ronald Evans, headed towards space. The spacecraft had 3 sections. The command module, where the crew stayed, which was equipped with a life support system. The service module, which was designed for the supply of engine, electricity, and oxygen, and the lunar module. Within 49 seconds, the spacecraft had reached low Earth orbit, from where the 3rd stage was now going to take the spacecraft to the moon. This was not just a story of technological achievement. The Apollo 17 mission explored scientific experiments. They were taken along with them. The instruments included a seismometer, a gravimeter, and special instruments for drilling on the lunar surface. These instruments studied the moon's internal structure and seismic activity. In December 1972, Apollo 17 had reached the moon's orbit. The 3rd stage of Saturn V separated at about 200 miles above. Now, the spacecraft's command module and service module rotated 180 degrees and docked with the lunar module, and contact with mission control was lost. Actually, at that time, Apollo 17 had gone to the other side of the moon. From there, the Earth is not visible at all, and no kind of communication with Earth is possible. This lasted for 30 minutes, and during this time, radio silence, mission control to Apollo 17 status report, orbit 118 miles, 2nd stage complete. Internally, the psychiatrists breathe a sigh of relief, but there is an unfamiliar tension felt in their ongoing conversation. The third stage initiated the translunar injection, which took it out of Earth's gravity and sent it toward the moon. Here, some conspiracy theorists say that during this time, the astronauts sitting in the spacecraft heard something on the radio. They dismissed it as a data error, but was it really an error, or was there a deeper mystery? Here, conspiracy theorists believe that this noise could be an unknown alien signal present on the moon. Perhaps the eyes of the extraterrestrials were fixed on the television screens at that time. The lunar module separated at an altitude of 100 kilometers. Sarnan and Schmidt were now sitting inside, fully prepared. To land on the moon, the engines were shut off while descending on the descent trajectory, and after 30 seconds, the module shifted from a vertical to a horizontal position. As they descended, the engines restarted and they gradually slowed. At around 1:54:58, a soft landing was made in the Taurus Littrow Valley, and a historic moment where humans touch the moon for the last time. Sarnan and Schmidt descend the ladder and step onto the surface of the moon. After landing there, they collect about 21.5 kilograms of rocks. They also calculate velocity and gravity on the moon. For this task, the Littrow Valley was specially chosen because it is one of the oldest geological structures on the moon. They covered a distance of 35 kilometers and also collected about 110 kilograms of lunar material. Schmidt mentioned in his diary about a night after the landing when a sudden blue glow startled him. It was something like plasma whose glow This incident lasted for about 10 minutes and Schmidt described it as an unknown light. He didn't tell mission control about it, but this part is missing from the recording. Was this really a natural phenomenon, or was there some unknown force present there? After Apollo 17, National Aeronautics and Space Administration never went back to the moon again. Why was such a successful mission suddenly stopped? Officially, budget cuts and the end of the Cold War were given as reasons. But was that really the truth? After 1972, National Aeronautics and Space Administration shifted its focus to space stations and Mars missions. But some former scientists secretly hinted that unknown incidents on the moon had actually made National Aeronautics and Space Administration cautious. Did National Aeronautics and Space Administration do this because the moon became even more dangerous? Some scientists believe that this radiation could have become a major challenge for future missions as well. In 2026, National Aeronautics and Space Administration is planning to return to the moon with the Artemis program, where water ice has been confirmed. The water present here can be used not only for drinking but also as fuel in the form of hydrogen and oxygen. But can we really reach that darkness which was seen in the pictures taken earlier? Did National Aeronautics and Space Administration see any alien civilization on the moon, or is it something else? We will reveal this in the next part of this video. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, and the rest, my friends, to you. The journey of Apollo 17 began from the center with the roar of the Saturn V rocket With 3 astronauts, Eugene Cernan, Harrison Schmitt, and Ronald Evans, this mission was the final chapter of National Aeronautics and Space Administration's Apollo program. But was this really the beginning of a mystery? After their 3-day journey towards the moon, when Apollo 17, when it enters the moon's orbit and reaches the far side of the moon, a strange silence falls over the mission control room, because for a moment, some very mysterious sounds were heard. But maybe this wasn't the thing that scared National Aeronautics and Space Administration and made them never go to the moon again. So what exactly happened during Apollo 17? On the afternoon of December 11, when the lunar module lands in the Taurus-Littrow Valley, everything is going according to plan. Exiting from orbit, there is a soft and precise landing on the descent trajectory. Cernan and Schmitt take the last and historic steps on the surface of the moon. After landing on the lunar surface, both astronauts begin their scientific work. A total of 21.5 kilograms of rocks are collected and the radiation level is also measured. But it brings up many questions. In one picture, a mysterious figure can be seen in the astronaut's visor, which looks exactly like a human but without a spacesuit. Was that strange-looking figure just a shadow, or was it something else? That strange figure appears to be about 1.8 meters tall, and its upper part is round like a human head. It looks as if someone is walking on the moon without any spacesuit. Some people call it pareidolia, which means it's just a trick of our mind. But in reality, there's nothing like that in the clouds. But was it really just an illusion? National Aeronautics and Space Administration claims that it could be the reflection of the spacecraft or the shadow of the lunar module. But looking at the angle and lighting of the pictures, people don't trust National Aeronautics and Space Administration. A faint blue glow caught their eyes. It was like plasma, but this light was actually flashes coming from cosmic rays. These light flashes weren't always blue, but used to be of random colors. Actually, there are 2 natural phenomena of Apollo 17. After Apollo 17, many conspiracies also emerged about why National Aeronautics and Space Administration never went back to the moon. The first theory says that National Aeronautics and Space Administration found traces of an unknown civilization on the moon. And National Aeronautics and Space Administration has completely covered up this fact. But National Aeronautics and Space Administration calls them a play of light and shadows. The second conspiracy theory is even scarier. Some people believe that the Apollo 17 astronauts heard an alien message that came from the surface of the moon, and that message was not just any ordinary one. Some people believe that all of this was filmed in a Hollywood studio, like a carefully planned drama. And these people present that mysterious figure as evidence in support of this theory. They say that what is shown in the picture couldn't have survived even for a moment. So, was it an actor standing in a studio who was accidentally captured on camera? Some other arguments are also given to support this theory. In the pictures, the direction of the shadows and light on the surface of the moon looks a bit strange, as if more than one light source was used, just like in a studio setup. Apart from this, the marks of dust on the surface of the moon and the footprints of the astronauts are quite different. Such marks can be made in a vacuum on the moon, but even after this, no one has been able to solve the mystery of that strange shape till today as to why it is even there in those pictures. Was there really someone else present on the moon? If the presence of a human is impossible, then was it some other species that could survive in the moon's original environment? Some people link it to the ancient alien civilization, which might have used the moon as their base. On the other hand, conspiracy theorists say that this figure was National Aeronautics and Space Administration's cover-up. This is major evidence that the Apollo missions were filmed on Earth and the whole world was fooled. On the contrary, National Aeronautics and Space Administration says that the minerals and rocks found on the surface of the moon, such as anthracites and basalts, are completely different from those on Earth. And having them in the laboratory is proof that National Aeronautics and Space Administration went to the moon. This lunar material was brought from there. But if this mission was fake, then both things can't be true at the same time. After Apollo 17, National Aeronautics and Space Administration never went to the moon again. No human mission was carried out. National Aeronautics and Space Administration officially stated that due to budget cuts and the end of the Cold War, the decision was made to stop such expensive missions. During the Cold War, America spent money like water to go to the moon, but its effects started showing up as anger among common people. People were protesting against the American government in many places. Because of this, the government had to cut its expenses under pressure. And National Aeronautics and Space Administration's budget dropped from billions of dollars to just a few $1 million, because of which National Aeronautics and Space Administration had to suddenly stop all its programs. But was this really the reason? Some ex-employees of National Aeronautics and Space Administration secretly revealed that something happened on the surface of the moon that had already warned them, and National Aeronautics and Space Administration stopped all its missions. But now, all these conspiracy theories should be uncovered. And if that's the case, then what? Will the Artemis program uncover the mystery behind the Apollo 17 mission? As we try to understand the mysteries of the moon, many questions arise before us. Are we really surrounded by aliens? Did National Aeronautics and Space Administration lie to the whole world to win the Cold War, according to National Aeronautics and Space Administration? The truth is that American astronauts made history by landing on the moon. But sometimes we also hear different stories which tell us that Earth is the only place where this is found. Of course, the universe is very vast, but for now, it seems to us that maybe we are alone in this universe. This fact creates two kinds of emotions in us humans. Some people get scared just thinking that human civilization is completely alone in this infinite universe. On the other hand, some people believe that even if we are alone, at least we humans have the whole universe to ourselves, where we can go, where we can rule. But the thing to think about is, have we ever been able to go anywhere beyond Earth? Before July 16th, 1969, the answer was no. This is the date when humans set foot on the surface of the moon for the first time under the Apollo program. Today, it has been more than 50 years since this event, and even today, our answer is the same as it was 50 years ago. Yes, we have been able to reach the moon, which is about 400,000 kilometers from Earth. But those historic steps taken on the moon still stand as testimony to the existence of us humans. In the Apollo program, we didn't just bring back photos and samples from the moon. In fact, we left a lot of things there as well, which will remain there just like that for a long time. Some scientific equipment like retroreflectors, lunar rovers, landers, seismometers, and tracks. All these marks are still intact in the soil of the moon. But for how long? Will these always remain, or will they eventually disappear over a long time scale? Some people believe that these footprints and other prints will continue to exist on the surface of the moon for millions of years. Yes, it's true that there is no atmosphere on the moon, so there is neither wind nor dust blowing there. So because of all these reasons, there's no question of those prints getting erased, but still there are some mysterious processes happening on the moon that are causing these footprints to disappear much faster than we think. Cosmic radiation impacts, etc. We do know that these prints won't stay on the moon forever, and how long they will last on the moon. That will depend on the mentioned factors, on how those factors are affecting these prints, and how frequently they occur. What impact do these factors have on the moon's environment? How will these prints eventually fade from the lunar surface? We have three possibilities for this. The first possibility is that they could disappear all at once in a whirl. For example, an impact could cause this, like a meteoroid impact. The second possibility is that these prints will fade away slowly. The removal process could begin, causing deformation and distortion as the vibrating moon surface triggers shaking. Particles will be removed from them, and the prints will start to get erased. The third and final possibility is that these prints, particles, and other things get buried under a layer and disappear. They can come to any other planet in the solar system traveling from our solar system. Tiny dust grain particles, large bodies like asteroids and comets, cosmic ray particles, and radiation. You will find all of this on the moon. By looking at the dark side of the moon, anyone can understand what kind of conditions the moon went through during the early days of the solar system. You don't find these today, although that's actually a big relief. On the other hand, if we talk about Earth, about 33 metric tons of material falls on Earth every day due to asteroids and meteors falling daily. However, this is an average calculated from long-term data, but compared to Earth, the size of the moon is much smaller, and for such objects, the moon is a small target. You can roughly assume that the amount of material that can reach Earth per kilometer per second can also reach the moon. Which upon impact will release so much kinetic energy that we can't even imagine it. For example, if a 5-kilogram meteor hits the moon, it will create a crater about 30 feet deep on the moon. A crater will be formed and about 75,000 kilos of material will be removed from that crater. Now we know how much material hits the moon and what effect it has on the moon. But the thing to note here is that it will be randomly distributed over the moon's total million square kilometers and mostly. These are mostly tiny particles whose average mass is only up to 0.0001 grams. So according to the calculations, these particles, solar particles that penetrate up to 1 centimeter deep on the moon, also collide with the lunar surface and rearrange the particles of lunar soil. Apart from this, gamma rays and radio waves, which are present everywhere in the form of cosmic background radiation. Cosmic particles like cosmic rays also make their way to the moon. All these things act as a catalyst in the process of those footprints disappearing. Our moon transfers into many volatile elements and compounds. Because of this, they get excited and fly off into space, and sometimes they even leave the moon's gravity and go into space. On the moon's surface, oxygen, sodium, magnesium, aluminum, silicon, calcium, titanium, and even iron are found when the energy from these impacts in sunlight falls on them. For example, with sodium, it quickly releases its electron and becomes ionized, and the solar winds easily carry away these ionized particles. So all these things have always been happening on the moon and will continue to happen like this. If we draw a conclusion from all these processes, the moon is losing its atmosphere every moment, which is truly a sad part of reality. We usually say that there is no atmosphere on the moon, and even if there is, it's very little. But how little? Let's find out. If we talk about Earth, at sea level, there are about 10 raised to the power 19 molecules per cubic centimeter in the atmosphere. But on the moon, there are only about 1 million molecules in every cubic centimeter. And most of these are noble gases, which usually stay in one place most of the time because noble gases don't react much. When a meteor shower happens on the moon, as soon as the meteor particles hit the moon's surface, some dust particles from the surface get lifted and go into the atmosphere. Because of this, the atmospheric density here increases slightly. And then, when this dust settles back on the surface, the process of the footprints degrading becomes twice as fast. Human activities like landers and rovers launching and landing, including natural activities like meteor showers, can erase these footprints, footpaths, and rover tracks in about 1 million years, a few 100,000 years, or even a few thousand years. So, what's more concerning than the impact here are the settling down particles, which will cover them with a layer from above, and these will disappear very quickly. Now let's talk about internal events, that is, the activities happening on the moon like moonquakes. Ever since we started trying to understand the moon, we have placed several seismometers there to record the activities happening on the moon. Recently, India's Chandrayaan-3 has also confirmed moonquakes. So with so much data, we have divided moonquakes into 4 parts. Deep moonquakes, which occur about 700 kilometers below the surface. These are mainly generated due to the tidal forces of our Earth. Surface vibrations are caused by the impact of an asteroid or meteor. Thermal quakes are formed due to the day-night cycle happening on the moon. Due to the high heat during the day, the moon's surface expands. At night, the temperature drops to as low as minus 180 degrees Celsius. So the lunar surface starts to contract, which causes thermal quakes. And at number 4 are shallow moonquakes. These occur 20 to 30 kilometers below the moon's surface. The first 3 moonquakes are very small on the seismic scale. They're mild and harmless. These can't rearrange or deform particles on the lunar surface, but the shallow moonquakes can reach up to 5.5 on the seismic scale. These have thousands of times more power compared to the other moonquakes. If we compare it to Earth, the most powerful earthquake here can last for a maximum of 2 minutes, but on the moon, shallow moonquakes can show their terrifying form for up to 10 minutes. If just one moonquake happens under those friends, the timescale of millions or thousands of years becomes meaningless. Because here, everything will be over in just a few minutes. It will feel as if humans never set foot on the moon at all. The Apollo seismic network studied around 28 high-magnitude moonquakes on the moon during its 8 years of operation. A recent study of that data makes it clear that the moon is very active internally, and because of this, the moon has shrunk by up to 50 meters in the last 100 million years. As its core and interior continue to cool down, it keeps shrinking as well. The center of the large magnitude moonquake recorded at the Apollo 17 site was about 13 kilometers away. But still, nothing happened to the footprints, the astronauts' footpaths, or the tracks of the lunar vehicle. From this, one conclusion can be drawn. If these footprints were erased because of moonquakes, then the epicenter of that moonquake would have to be directly beneath the landing site, which would be a very rare event, so we can say that the footprints of human civilization can remain on the moon for millions or even billions of years. Only in some rare cases, if a direct asteroid or any other impact occurs right on top of them, or if a very large moonquake happens directly beneath that spot. Only in that case can these prints be erased, and the chances of such rare events happening are just 1 in millions or billions. Human activities will obviously degrade the moon's surface faster, but if humans reach the moon, they will definitely try to preserve these heritages. Friends, India's Chandrayaan-3 mission has created a new history in the world by making a soft landing on the lunar South Pole. Because India is the only country in the world to achieve this feat, India's success was celebrated all over the world. But friends, do you know that during its experiment, Chandrayaan-3 has also discovered sulfur and oxygen on the lunar surface? This discovery by Chandrayaan-3 could prove to be a milestone for the entire world. In today's video, we will talk about how Chandrayaan-3 worked during one lunar day and what discoveries it has made. Friends, August 23, 2023 was the day when India's Vikram lander made a soft landing on the South Pole. And exactly the next day, on August 24, 2023, for further experiments, the Pragyan rover was brought out using the ramp. From August 24 to September 4, the Vikram lander and Pragyan rover worked. After that, they were put into deep sleep mode. We'll discuss this more in the video. But before that, let's find out what discoveries Vikram lander and Pragyan rover made in these 12 days and how they did it. On August 27, Chandrayaan surface thermophysical experiment began operating in the Vikram lander. Chandrayaan surface thermophysical experiment stands for Chandrayaan surface thermophysical experiment. Now, its job was to record the surface and subsurface temperature, which is important to keep track of. This instrument could go up to 10 cm inside the lunar surface. When it took readings, a lot of surprising things came to light. For example, as the chest rate was going inside the lunar surface, the temperature was dropping rapidly into the minus. With every centimeter going down, the temperature was dropping by about 10 degrees Celsius. Where the surface temperature was 60 degrees Celsius, just 10 centimeters below, the temperature had dropped to minus 10 degrees Celsius. This was the first time that the temperature was detected in this way at the lunar South Pole, and it was quite shocking that there was such a huge difference in temperature in just 10 centimeters. Talking about the payloads on Pragyan rover, on August 28, the laser-induced breakdown spectroscope, that is, the laser-induced breakdown spectroscope, detected sulfur on the lunar surface. This was the first time that the presence of sulfur on the lunar surface was detected on the ground. This amazing instrument was developed by the Laboratory for Electro-Optic Systems. This instrument works in a very interesting way. This instrument directs a high-energy laser pulse onto a small part of the lunar surface. As the temperature of the lunar soil increases a lot, it gradually turns into plasma. Plasma is considered the fourth state of matter after solid, liquid, and gas. When gas is heated even more, it turns into plasma. When light is emitted from this, the most special thing about this light is that the different elements present in the soil emit light of different wavelengths. By detecting these, it can be determined which elements are present in the soil. In this way, it was found that lunar soil contains aluminum, ferrous or iron, titanium, sulfur, calcium, and chromium. Before this, the Soviet Union and National Aeronautics and Space Administration's Apollo missions detected sulfur on the moon in the 1970s. But still, this discovery by India is important because we have done this research on the ground. Even before this, other countries have detected different elements on the surface of the moon. For example, in 2011, National Aeronautics and Space Administration used the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter and found that there could be a large amount of titanium present on the moon. And even at that time, no discovery was made by landing on the lunar surface. Instead, it was detected by an orbiter orbiting the moon. Similarly, in 2007, a Japanese spacecraft detected the presence of uranium on the moon. But in LIBS, a much more advanced technology has been used compared to the technology used in these orbiters and spacecraft. Because of this, it can be said with full confidence that apart from sulfur, manganese, silicon, and oxygen are also present on the lunar surface. You must be wondering, where did the oxygen on the moon come from? So for your information, let me tell you that oxygen here is not present in a gaseous state like Earth's atmosphere because there is no atmosphere on the moon. Instead, oxygen is present here in another form. It exists in the form of chemical compositions of different elements such as silicate minerals, which are made up of a combination of oxygen and silicon. It is being said that there is so much oxygen present here that about 8 billion people could sustain themselves here for around 100,000 years. But this will only be possible if the oxygen present here in the form of chemical bonding is extracted. If this is done, then in the future, human settlements can be easily established on the moon. When there was talk about finding oxygen on the lunar surface, on August 25, 2023, National Aeronautics and Space Administration published an article in which they stated that they have succeeded in extracting oxygen present in lunar soil. That means it can be said that National Aeronautics and Space Administration is already working on these options. Now let's talk about the payload attached to Vikram lander. So on August 31, Indian Space Research Organization released a report in which they explained the function of Rambha. The full name of Rambha is Radioanatomy of Moon-Bound Hypersensitive Ionosphere and Atmosphere. Its job is also to detect plasma, but unlike laser-induced breakdown spectroscope, it doesn't release any plasma on its own. Instead, it is used to detect the natural plasma present in the environment. This is a very small instrument, just 5 centimeters in size, which looks like a rod. We know that there is no atmosphere present on the lunar surface, but at some distance above the lunar surface, there is indeed a very thin atmosphere in the form of plasma. Electric current is used to measure the lunar plasma atmosphere. A voltage is applied through a probe, the returning current is detected by RAMBHA, and then voltage is reapplied at the same location. The presence is measured, and RAMBHA can easily measure current even on a very small scale. We know that current is measured in amperes, but RAMBHA can measure current even in picoamperes, that is 10 raised to the power minus 12 amperes. Now let's talk about the next payload, ILSA. This instrument has been designed to detect seismic activity on the moon. This instrument detected a natural moonquake on August 26, 2023. By detecting these seismic activities on the moon, we can easily understand the moon's internal structure. Studying seismic activity is also important because when humans live on the lunar surface, we need to know how big the moonquakes are on the moon so that we can design structures for living that can easily withstand the intensity of moonquakes. On September 3rd, Indian Space Research Organization performed a hop experiment after this. In this, Vikram lander took off once again and landed a little ahead after moving from Shiv Shakti point. Vikram lander flew about 40 centimeters in the air and landed about 50 centimeters away from Shiv Shakti point. Indian Space Research Organization also released pictures related to this experiment, which you can see. This HOP experiment by Indian Space Research Organization is also important for this reason. Because in the future, for human missions, we need to know how to take off again after landing on the lunar surface, so people sent there can return to Earth. The next day, on September 4th, Vikram lander and rover Pragyan were put into sleep mode at around 8 in the morning. This was done about 2 days before nightfall on the moon. This was done so that the instruments attached to it would shut down completely and not get damaged. The rover's battery was fully charged beforehand, and it was parked at a location where, as soon as morning arrives on the moon, its solar panels can receive enough sunlight. After this, the payloads of both were shut down and their receivers were kept on. But after the long 14-day night when morning arrived on the moon, every effort was made to wake up the Pragyan rover and Vikram lander, but it was not possible. Once they went to sleep, the Vikram lander and Pragyan rover did not wake up again. Next, this happened because during the 14-day long night, the temperature drops down to minus 180 degrees Celsius. Because of this cold, it is simply not possible for the instruments to survive and function properly. Indian Space Research Organization had already announced that our mission would last only one lunar day, meaning it would operate on the moon for just 1 day, which is approximately equal to 14 days on Earth. But if the rover and Vikram lander had woken up from their deep sleep once again, Indian Space Research Organization scientists would have had the opportunity to conduct even more experiments on the lunar surface. Indian Space Research Organization scientists are still making every effort to establish contact with the rover and the lander. Hope is slim that the Vikram lander and Pragyan rover will reactivate, because they did not have any radioactive reactor to keep them warm during the lunar night. So all we can do is wait. Friends, how did you like this video and what are your thoughts? About our India's Chandrayaan-3 mission, do you think India should now go for the Chandrayaan-4 mission as well? Please let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share it with your friends. For more such informative videos, make sure to subscribe to the channel and enable the bell notification. Friends, we will meet soon with another new informative video. Until then, stay curious, be happy, and goodbye.